Hi again, we're just going to continue to explore the area around Castle Combe and just look for and discuss issues of meltology. So for example, in this building, this arch, you can see cracks up at the top. The inside of the arch looks like it has some kind of smoke effect on it. And then the individual bricks, some of them look fairly intact, some of them look cooked out, but not cooked out to the point where they've expanded or ballooned. You wouldn't think that these bricks would have had a function of being able to warm up, being that they're an external wall. But could they have been storage batteries, if modern bricks can be designed to store energy? Perhaps more than just energy, perhaps data as well, but if they were a form of battery. The destruction of the cities that Conspiracies Are Us in his Bomb Squad video talks about dynamite being used to create fire breaks, and this seeming like a fairly flimsy excuse, led me to quickly just Google the fire of London 1966 and add the word dynamite, because the Bomb Squad said that in Chicago and San Francisco, on record, there's dynamite disaster where, to try and stop the fire from spreading, they decide to dynamite unbelievable amounts of buildings, so much so that it sounds like an aerial bombardment. So that led me to think, what about the fire of London? And lo and behold, in 1966, they dynamited, the king at the time decided to dynamite epic amounts of London to try and create a fire break. That's the story, the narrative, the spin, the PR, the accepted historical narrative. So applying multiple perspectives approach, could have there been another reason? What are the motivations of the people involved? Was there a motivation to come up with a cover story without accusations of conspiracy theory? You know, maybe a conspiracy theory is just government policy. It doesn't have to be a conspiracy, it's just, this is going to be the party line. It's a form of spin. We've got good reasons for it, but we're not going to tell you what the reasons are. But we have good reasons. So it's national security. We don't need to know. So we need to appreciate that there could be very good reasons to dynamite cities. Perhaps to stop the grid from melting down again. Might not be just to hide evidence of the past or the free energy grid. Maybe they wanted to monetize the grid, which they did. Monetize energy making, but maybe that was for good reason, because when it was free energy generation, it backfired and blew up the whole grid. So there could be lots of reasons for hiding the past. So the golf course, we're on the Manor golf course at Castle Combe. Does it hide stuff? It seems to be at the top of the Motte and Bailey structure that we saw in previous videos. This bit is the highest bit, and then Castle Combe is scooped out in a valley. So what I'm just going to do is look for evidence of meltology. So I'll cut it now and then just wait till I get further down this public footpath that anyone can walk along, and see if we can just see evidence of meltology and just have a little discussion of it. Very near a military base around here as well. There's one just down the road in Corsham. And the military bases in this southwest of England all seem to, well, the ones I've seen seem to be built into the ground. So using meltology, is it just using old buried buildings, and mud flood. Obviously, mud flood is part of Meltology. The two are combined, they coexist. But yeah, there's frequent military operations around this area, and the military bases seem to be largely underground, and I'm not sure how many of the hills in Bath include them, but Lansdowne Hill was a military base, and the one in Corsham is too, and there are a lot of active cavers around this area of England who go out caving and looking at underground structures. I've been in a few, but this was prior to understanding Meltology and mud flood, so I wasn't really looking out for the underground structures being the remnants of buildings, but looking back on it and looking at videos of other people going caving, you can certainly understand why that is a theory. So the theory that go to your local golf course because it's bound to be covering up something, I think does apply, but maybe everything's covering up something, or not in a conspiratorial way, but just in the fact that mud flood and the Meltology and the previous events, the floods or whatever happened, the past is just covered up generally. So what sites would they choose to do a golf course on? Well, in this area they did it on the Mott and Bailey, part of Castle Combe and the surrounding area. So this wall looks really cooked out. It's very similar to the walls that we saw going down into Castle Combe on either side of the road. If there was ever mortar here, it's gone, or there's just remnants of it. You see, this brick here, red brick would say that's two red bricks that have just joined together. And I think possibly there's definitely occasions when that is the case. But on other occasions I just think, well, maybe it's a wall built from the remnants of whatever caused the mud flood, the X factor event. Maybe this was what was left and they just put it together to form a wall. I would really like someone to tell me how many bricks form up all of the countryside and the walls in between fields in England, Wales and Scotland. Maybe the whole of Great Britain. There just seems to be an unbelievable amount of rock work on a giant scale, surely on a beyond the pyramid scale. And how deep do the walls go? Has there anyone got any videos for a renovation where do the walls go deeper? Is there any evidence of them having a function, perhaps as batteries or to prevent mud floods in the future? So the golfer guys have finished their hole, so I'm going to walk past, not disturbing their game. That is the way to the Mott and Bailey, or you can continue down here on the public footpath and go that way. But you'd need to do it when the golf course was closed, and I'm not encouraging it. I'm not sure what the right of way there is. I think there's a public right of way. There should be to a historical monument like a Mott and Bailey, shouldn't there? You can't think of any reason why there wouldn't be public right of way. So this wall, like many in England and Wales and Scotland, is enormous when you really think about it, and you think about how far these walls stretched and how much work that would have taken. So if we're thinking about a grid, are these walls part of the grid? And even in Africa, in satellite imagery by Tellinger's guys, Michael Tellinger, it looks like a grid system. So maybe the recent work or the recent scientific evidence that red brick can be used to store energy and it can be used to heat homes, and in the recent smart cities, smart roads, maybe the old grid is just still here. But maybe they just needed to control it better. Maybe the meltdown that occurred was an accident. You wouldn't think they'd want to melt themselves down. But having said that, it's difficult to to think of the timeline. So here we are, the stone walls continuing, all looking cooked out. Just looking for evidence of red bricks, just to please red brick. Ah, there we go. So from this side, that is very clearly a red brick wall. I'm just going to go back up to the top, see what it looks like from the other side. Okay, so here we've got an arch, and what looks like red brick. So on the other side of the wall this looks like red brick, and on this side of the wall it's got the cooked out brick, and it's got remnants of mortar and red brick, and then places where the mortar's leached out. So whatever the energy event was, it affected this side of the wall far more than the other side. All the other sides are more recent fortification of the wall. So if we look inside there, we can see a red brick from the other side. So that would lead you to believe that the other side has been put up more recently, since the event. Now there'll be a lot of people that just say, well, maybe these bricks, become drier over time. Yeah, you're absolutely right, 100%. Okay, so here's that wall, and here's this wall, and then the two seem to converge. The newer wall, is this the newer wall? Okay, so that's clearly the red bricks, and on this side they look more cooked out. So red brick theory is going to be really pleased about that one. And then all the way through Castle Combe we can see that we're walking on these bricks, and the brickwork is on an epic scale. So we'll just follow this older wall around. Not sure what that is. Could it be linked to some sort of underground facility? Difficult to tell. So in Clapham, on Clapham Common, as you get out the Clapham South tube station, just on the field, just as you start to look across the common, there's a red brick building there. That's actually the surface level entrance to the underground tunnel network that has been used on record to process immigrants coming in, and as bomb shelters. They used to do tours down there, or perhaps they still do infrequently, and there have been people that found the doors at the top open and managed to go down and investigate and have a look at these underground shelters that effectively seem to be part of the tube network, or built around the same time as the tube network. With this Meltology and mud flood view of the world, these are probably previously dug out structures, and we've inherited them and just dug them out effectively. So it doesn't seem like there's the capability to build these massive underground structures that are found in London, made of billions of red brick, and then just lie dormant for centuries. So the whole of Castle Combe is just literally a network of these stone walls that seem to link the entire site. The entire site is just a catacomb of these stone walls. And if we're thinking of in terms of towns, villages, cities, beaten grids and power grids, and that they could self-power using energy extracted from the ether, and perhaps convert that into making plants grow better, to making human beings feel better, and creating some kind of harmony between etheric frequencies or frequencies that trigger life in the ether. So what are we saying? That churches are buildings that can capture etheric energy? Are we saying that the music that's played in them can generate it? And that we use these churches and cathedrals and the grid use SCADA technology? But perhaps there's got to be a reason for the beautiful harmony of these old structures and the beautiful music that was created. Maybe the battle between the beautiful music, which was used for positive reasons, and then the devil's music, which is sort of like more abrasive, atonal, and stimulates different emotions. Maybe that there is a rationale behind that. So it's quite interesting to look at the old stone buildings and then the new ones. The new ones on this side, the old ones possibly on this side. Looks like they've been rebuilt after something. So again, we're looking at cooked out red bricks according to this theory. It does look like that, has to be said. So who knows what the obelisk function provided, but the obelisk on the pyramid there is now an ancient monument. So this building looks like it was cooked out, as a lot of the churches seem to be in England and further afield. And applying the Meltology theory, the bricks have started to bulge, meld together, transform. It's needed big repairs, so something destructive happened. It shook itself in places out. And built to survive something, isn't it? All these churches are built to survive bigger events than the houses surrounding them are. They're built like fortresses. They're built to survive tsunami, lightning storm, flood. I bet they're built on solid ground as well. I'm not sure how deep this goes. Looks like there's some vents here. Difficult to tell how deep it goes. You get the impression it goes deeper. So I'm still trying to understand what the extra tall tower is. So there's the 4 corner towers, and then the extra one, the big one in one of the corners. Really interesting to find out what that extra one's for. Is it the one that conducts the lightning, being the highest one? And then what is that thing there sticking out? Looks like it's made of metal. So you'd think that the grid would be able to take lightning from the air, attract it, and then push it into the red brick batteries. So we've got another metal. See, look, is this the way of keeping the electricity and channeling it? These metal pipes that are still on this church, they look really rusted now. Some cooked out bricks down here. So that obviously channels the water as well. Keep the water away from the building. You can see how much that one comes out, this one comes out. So there are bubbling bits here, bits that bubble. Thing looks like a machine, doesn't it? Something to transform energies, transducer. So human intent, you pray in one of these machines, you sing in the machine, the frequencies, the chords, the harmonies, they get pushed out through the cymatic windows, perhaps. Maybe there's frequencies that affect human beings, maybe being inside certain areas, you channel the energy in certain ways. You have to think for a positive effect, but then also, were these war machines too? Could they push out ultra low frequencies and cause all the villagers to liquefy around them if they were in danger? Could the priests or the people that controlled these buildings just fire off the low organ sounds and do that in a thunderstorm, send out electric bursts, whatever, cause liquefaction, and then everyone else is not built on the solid rock just gets swept away as an act of God? Worship. Are they warships? So was wood used as a sort of like to try and break up the electricity, to stop the electricity from being able to spread between things? Not sure. Seems interesting that there's wooden lintels. And maybe this building has been reconstructed from what was left over, whereas that one looks more authentic. Cooked out bricks, and then buildings made in the same style but using bricks that had all fallen apart, reused. Is that two different kinds we can see here? On one side of the road, a facsimile of this side. We've looked at these doorways before. Why are they so small? Did they used to go a little bit deeper? It's just ridiculously small. It's about 5 feet maximum. Looks a bit like an old tithe barn, possibly newer. Interesting shaped arch here, with this stone and this one looking like they've expanded, bubbled out a little bit possibly, and different sizes, just irregular. So something's happened to shift this around. And then is that a rebuild around it? Not sure. This is one of the fascinating things about meltology and mud flood, especially when you combine the two. And the two are intrinsically combined. So it makes you reevaluate everything that you're looking at.
But then there wouldn't have been a bloodline with
Those people talking about a bloodline between Harry and Wills. The two English princes. Some undeniable red brickwork. It's on the little bridge, and there's these metal link-ups between the stones at the top of the bridge. You see in ancient Egypt too, and you see in the modern day, I guess, to link the stones together, but just interesting use of metalwork. So people are intrinsically drawn to this place. It's just usually like this. A place of wonder and fascination for people all around the world. Just come to this little beautiful idyllic town that's perhaps in the remnants of a disaster, a little pocket of survival perhaps. When the mud flood rose around the city walls, this small valley perhaps survived it, or at least enough of it survived to rebuild it. One of the brilliant things about meltology and mud flood is the giant scale of the building project that went before us, as well as the huge apocalyptic nature of the theory. But the absolute giant scale of the waterways, and all it's just undeniable the amount of rock work and brickwork that goes into all the stones between all the fields. All the people that are denying this and still clinging on to the mainstream theory because that's easy, why would they lie? Let's not be able to think outside the box. These people that can only handle one theory or one perspective and find it difficult to adopt multiple perspectives. It presents an alternative way of living. The waterways had a function. They were lined with brick often. The bricks had functions that we are admitting they have now. So there's an awakening happening. And it's just, some people are trying to put it together and other people are just a little bit in denial of it all. Building a system that could melt down like that, and what would it take to melt it down? Are we talking epic level storms where the lightning is just so intense that it just blows out the grid everywhere around the world, which then melts the ice caps, which then causes seas to rise, which causes floods, deposits of sediment, very few survivors? You've got to encourage women to give birth. You've got a lot of orphans that you need to be brought up, to be working to redevelop, and what do they call it in the Bible? repopulate, not just populate, but repopulate. Is the Bible just the telling of a reset? The Meltology event that Revelations describes and the Hindu Vedas describe all kinds of similar events. Everything describes these similar events in the past. We all acknowledge there was a golden age in the past, but we're still walking around in the remnants of it because the golden age was huge. It was bigger than we can imagine. So there is hope that we could, be part of the redevelopment of that golden age, and that there is a way of us all to live together and live and build something beautiful, because the scale of Meltology shows that they had billions of people, way more than we've got now, all around the world living in much better systems, cleaner, more beautiful cities, beautiful towns, free energy. I don't know how they operated their system, but they constructed something wondrous. Whereas transhumanism seems to be the dominant ideology of the elite, and they're using neoliberalism and globalism as their tools to create, I guess, a point where they become the gods. And then when they become the gods, what are they thinking that they will then build this new world? Was this how this ancient golden age was built? Was it built with the creation of robots, AI, or what? Or do they want to scale things down? Do they not want to go back to a golden age like this, and they want to live in a smaller scale system where it's just 500,000, as the Georgia Guidestone says, and then those 500,000, you keep it at a stable rate, the earth stays stable, the earth has time to bounce back. You can see it from that point of view. You can see the logic. If you use ethical systems of utilitarianism, you'd say you could convince yourself you were doing it for the greater good, and that it almost justified everything. All the actions, it's justified because you're doing it for the greater good. Let's give these people the benefit of the doubt that they believe their ethical model is sound. So I guess what Meltology, or one of the things I like about all these alternate theories, the truth movement, is we're trying to also find a different path to success. And we have an example in the past, it looks like, of amazing harmony. A beautiful world that seemed to be international, seemed to have epic scale, structure, epic ways of using the world. Is it just too hard to go back to that, or is that beyond us? Were the ancients a different race? That's another question. Were we built as the slave race? Is that the story? That the slaves basically overthrew the system once the melt event happened? And that we are the slaves living with some of the descendants of the controllers that are still in control, but they're fighting a rearguard action. I don't know. This is what I love about these stories. It's just like a sci-fi film, and I treat it like that. It's just could all be fiction, it could also be sci-fi, but it's such a great story. And if you can find the evidence in the places where you live, and you find evidence of the past, well, you just try and create the narrative. What is the narrative? Maybe it is all just coincidence, and it looks like a meltdown, but it's not. Maybe it's very easy to create like a normalcy bias or cognitive dissonance, where you only accept facts that fit with the model you already have. And maybe that's what a lot of us do, or some of us do. So I guess the key to it is just to keep researching, keep looking, keep pushing, keep trying to understand this whole system we live in, and do it for the right reasons.